Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Blue Collar Sports Talk. I'm Daryl along with James.
Morning, my friend.
We're missing our partner, Roger, and our thoughts are with you, Roger. We're going to dip our toes right into it with college football. Previously ranked 21st prior to its loss to Purdue. They're at home, 11 o'clock game against now ranked number 24, Illinois, coached by Mr. Bielema. He's moved his team into the top 20 really quick, just in time to play Minnesota at home, and Minnesota is favored at home by 6.5.
Quick note on that. There's 3 two-loss teams in the top 25. The Big Ten just doesn't get the respect because Texas, granted, is a way better team with Ewers as quarterback, so I get that. Kentucky, Utah, 2 losses. If you want to say Minnesota hasn't really played anyone, James Madison's in there at 5-0 in the top 25 and has played absolutely no one. So for Minnesota to be kicked out of the top 25 for that one loss last week against the Purdue team, division game, tough one, I was a little disrespectful for the Big Ten, but I do think this is a top 25 matchup, 2 teams here. I really could flip a coin. You got a Minnesota team that hogs the ball all day on offense and wins, with ball control and solid D. But on the same flip side, Bielema is just a really, really good coach. Good grief.
Bielema is a great coach.
Man.
Is Ibrahim healthy with Minnesota? That's what I'm wondering. He got hurt a little bit. He's dinged up. Does Purdue focus all of its anger on him and try to get him out of the game? Or what does Illinois do? I mean, they just came off of a really tough road win at Iowa.
Good battle. That was a good win for him. Big win.
Yeah.
Not that Iowa's dangerous on offense, but that defense is legit.
Right. And I think Illinois' defense is legit, and I think Minnesota's defense is legit. Minnesota's favored by 6.5. The overs are set at 39. Even though Roger isn't here, he sent me his picks, and he's got Minnesota on this one.
So looking at the both starting quarterbacks, right? You have a guy, Illinois, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. Morgan for Minnesota, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks. I mean, can you get more even? 1,100 yards each. I mean, this is literally a coin flip game, and I'm going to go with the hot team. No, you know what? I'm not. I'm going to go with Minnesota. I believe Flick is just as good as a coach as Bielema. Maybe not as good, but he's right there. And coming off that loss, I'm going to say he rebounds and Minnesota takes this game.
All right, Coach Fleck out coaches Bielema at home is what James is saying. He's picking Minnesota. Roger's picking Minnesota. I'm taking Illinois to win on the road. I think Bielema out coaches them. We'll see what happens. Moving on to a 6:30 Big Ten matchup between 3-3 Nebraska versus 4-2 Purdue. Both teams are 2-1 in the Big Ten. Again, Purdue knocked off Minnesota last week. Let's see what they do this week. They're favored by 14 at home with the over set at 56.
Yeah, and to me, this comes down as I don't like to pick against the Big Red, but O'Connell for Purdue is a monster quarterback. 1,500 yards already, 10 touchdowns. He does have 4 picks, but 1,500 yards, that's quite the throwing the ball around, shall I say. And Nebraska's not very strong in the pass rush for one, and we know there's a lot of openings in that secondary from time to time on us.
They being Nebraska's defensive backs, are only as good as their coaching. And their coaches at times have them playing 10 yards off the ball when it's a short 3 and 5. I don't understand it.
Same.
And you're taking Purdue.
Unfortunately, yes.
I am going to hold my breath until the end of the game because I'm going to be a hometown homer and go with UNL and hope Mickey Joseph can get it done against a very, 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 very tough Purdue team.
Mm-hmm. And true test for Mickey. Not that the other 2 are walkovers, but he's got the team's confidence in him now, and they're like, okay, we believe in the system, believe in what we're doing. They can go out and beat this Purdue team. I definitely think they cover. The 14 points, I think, is really, really nuts. But just me, uh, I just, man, on the road, yeah, huge test for Mickey. And I think we're going to get to see something here with how this team responds.
If Nebraska plays like they have been on the road in the last 3 years, they play better on the road because I don't think they have the hometown distractions, whatever those may be. I just hope Mickey Joseph gets it done along with the rest of his staff. Moving on to Penn State versus Michigan. This is two 5-0 teams. Another 11 o'clock game. Penn State's ranked 10th. Michigan 5. Michigan is favored by 7 with the over set at 51.5.
Here you have the Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, all undefeated, owning the East. The winner of this is sitting right there in that seat, ready to take on Ohio State. So a big game right here. Huge, huge game.
Roger has taken Michigan. I'm not a big fan of splitting up a division East and West because when you have such a weak side, it may not be fair, but that's just how it's set up.
Yep.
And James, again, you're taking Michigan, you think?
Yeah, mainly it's when the college football games like this, it's a true home game for Michigan. Their quarterbacks only turned the ball over the one time. Yeah, they struggled a little bit against Indiana. I can't say a little bit. I mean, for 3 full quarters, Indiana had them on the ropes, and then they opened it up in the fourth quarter, obviously. Michigan's, very well balanced. Over 200 yards passing, over 200 yards rushing. Penn State's more of a passing game. And watching them against, excuse me, the Iowa defense, you can really see it. Their passing game struggles. The whole side struggles. So, yeah, I like Michigan and their defense at home, especially. I don't think Harbaugh's a super great coach, but I think he gets it done. And, they're just waiting to see Ohio State.
When you mentioned Harbaugh's name, all I can picture now is the time the TV cameras caught him on the sideline picking his boogers. He's a great coach. I'm going to disagree with you. He's done a lot. Defense wins games, something I'll say over and over and over. The Michigan defense allows 11.3 points per game,
right.
And whereas Penn State allows just over 2 touchdowns, 14.8. So it's going to be a really evenly matched defensive battle. We'll see who comes out unbeaten. I'm going to pick Penn State to knock them off on the road. Picking with my heart, I honestly believe Michigan wins, but I'm going to take Penn State just to see what happens.
I will be rooting for Penn State, but yes, I think Michigan gets it done at home.
We're going to move next to the Big 12. There is a matchup that I'd left off when I'd sent James some notes. James, tell me that game that I left off.
Kansas, Oklahoma.
No. That's not the one I left off.
Oh, I'm sorry. TCU. Sorry, my bad.
No, it's all good.
TCU, Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I left that one off, and I wasn't even thinking about it. TCU is 5-0. Oklahoma State's 5-0. TCU is ranked 4th. I'm sorry. TCU is favored by 4.
Right.
Me and numbers today. Overs are set at 68.5.
68.5. I think they hit that easily. And the winner of this is in the driver's seat.
You hope, unless somebody gets hurt. I mean, it's a crazy thing that could happen. I don't want anybody hurt.
Right. And again, both quarterbacks, Dugan, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 1 pick. Sanders for Oklahoma State, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. So they're both right there slinging it around, carrying their teams, 46 points a game each. College fans, especially Big 12 fans that tune into this game, I hope they see a 45, 42, 49, 56 ball game. I mean, I really hope these two quarterbacks can light it up. 350 yards passing, 3 or 4 touchdowns.
I zoned out on you there. I looked at Roger's pick. He sent me TCU. So help me out again. You picking?
I am going to go TCU also. I've watched a little bit more of their games. I honestly haven't seen too many of the OK State games, but I have seen TCU play, and I like what they do.
Van Gundy's one heck of a coach. He can figure out ways to win. TCU is just a battle-tested team, it looks like.
Right.
And they're at home. I got to give the nod to TCU. I would hope the Oklahoma State makes it a game. I mean, honestly, like you say, it's a flip of the coin when you look at defense, what they allow points per game, what they score points per game. It's almost identical. So I gotta give the edge to the home team, TCU, all across. All three of us picked TCU. So staying with the Big 12, what you mentioned earlier was the Kansas-Oklahoma game. Oklahoma's favored by 9 at home somehow. I don't get it.
100% agree. I mean, granted, Kansas has not beat Oklahoma since 1997. But this
and they
is
did
not,
it 3 years in a row.
Yes, they did. And this is not the same Kansas team we've seen the last 5, 6, 7 years.
That was even pre-Mangino. I made a mistake last week when I said when was the last time they were ranked. And I think they were actually even ranked after Mangino left. So
okay.
I looked at it and I unfortunately didn't write down my notes. But yeah, when I looked that up, I was like, oh, did Mangino do that? But no, it was Terry Allen for 3 years in a row. Where's Terry Allen now?
Where?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I've got KU.
Yeah.
I think you've got KU.
Yeah, KU comes in averaging almost 40 points a game. OU barely hanging around 30. They both rush the ball for over 200 yards. But the big but, I think, in this whole thing is what you said earlier in the defense. Kansas plays defense. OU has been getting shellacked, shut out.
They got shut out by Texas.
Points.
Oh, my God. Okay, so do they wake up after getting just hammered?
Well, the game before that, they didn't.
Okay.
So they come into Texas, and you're thinking, okay, rivalry. You know, you're going to have a big battle. Teams are going to get up for each other, and you don't even get in the end zone. Not only that, you give up 49 points, the worst beatdown between the rivalry ever. Wow.
They didn't show up.
No, and I don't know if this is a coach thing, because after they beat Nebraska, and I'll get to that later, it was all about this Venable defensive guy bringing defense to the Big 12. Look at this team go. And it's been a downhill slide ever since.
I agree. The coaching isn't there. He went from being a great defensive coordinator to being, oh my gosh, I have to do this now as the coach, I think. I think it was an eye-opener for him because defensively, I don't think they're there. Mm-hmm. I don't know what has happened, but it's bad.
We touched on it a little bit last week when we talked about McDaniels and the Raiders. You get some of these guys that are just great coordinators, but you open up the whole cupboard to them.
Yeah. It's tough. Just ask Scott Frost. And I mean, I'm not picking on him this time, but I mean, I do like to pick on the kid, but.
I mean, people like to bring up the Florida team. You can do that all you want with the transfers that came in and made them undefeated, but that was in 2 seasons.
That was also a very weak league. That possibly is one of the weakest leagues ever. Yeah, at the very end, he beat a very good team in
Auburn,
right, in a bowl.
Right,
Auburn, but he was never about defense. It was always about scoring one more point. Yeah. And you can't do that in the Big 12.
Well, anywhere. I mean, if you go to a Power 5 conference, not only that, you have to do week in, week out. And I think that was, not that we're trying to get off subject here, but it just showed how he was getting out-coached week in and week out.
Everybody out-coached him.
Everyone.
It was embarrassing for me to watch how bad he got out-coached. Moving on to a game that I think everybody should watch that has an interest in what's going to happen in this year's playoffs. Tennessee at home against Alabama. Tennessee is on fire. I sent James a text this week about an article with the question, how do you know your team is good? Count up how many arrests you've gotten during the season or leading up to it. And Tennessee just recently made news because of one of their team members on the team got arrested. Unfortunate incident there. Roger is picking Alabama. They're hugely favored.
Bama has beaten Tennessee 15 straight times. So, but Tennessee kind of had that Nebraska bug, not as bad, where they have been mediocre for a while. But they last year and then starting this year, and it comes down to the quarterback has not turned the ball. He has not thrown an interception yet this year, by the way. 10 touchdowns, 1,400 yards.
I said hugely favored. 7 points to me is kind of huge. When you have the ability to throw and run as much as you do and put that much pressure on a college defense. The overs are set at 65.5.
I really think that's high. I mean, just because of the big game, defense always steps up. I don't know if these teams get to 30 points. Bama, you can't be more balanced than 250 on offense or passing, 250 on rushing. But on the flip side, Tennessee very pass heavy. If they can hold that Bama pass rush that half a second, man, Tennessee can, if they get up early, Tennessee can get the momentum going early. I like them in the upset. They are at home. I think Rocky Top's going to be loud. So I'm going to go with my upset for the college this week. Because there really isn't any other one I have down, is Tennessee to beat Alabama this week.
I'm going to agree with James. I've got Tennessee getting it done at home as well. 7 points at home against an Alabama team is a huge margin, but Tennessee is tough. They only allow 17.8 points a game, and they've played some good teams. They beat a ranked LSU at LSU. They've
handedly.
Very handily. They had a very close game with Florida that they came out with a win. They took Pittsburgh, who was ranked at the time at Pitt, to overtime and win.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they have been tested and tested again this season. Not that Alabama hasn't. They have. I have Tennessee winning, and Roger has Alabama.
So on the Alabama thing, if Ewers stays in there as Texas quarterback, he was throwing all over him, dropping dimes. If that Tennessee guy and Tennessee offensive coordinator get that same game plan and challenge these corners, who I'm not going to say they're not good, but if you can put them in a spot to beat those one-on-one matchups, I think Tennessee could do what Texas should have done. If Ewers doesn't get hurt, I 100% believe Alabama has a loss. He went out early in that game. Texas was just moving the ball. I mean, up and down the field on him. Once he went down, obviously it hurt him. And Ewers comes back and puts up 49 on OU. So if this Tennessee quarterback can do that, I think it's going to be a opener for Alabama.
It always comes down to coaching in the smallest of moments. What I'm alluding to is the KU-Oklahoma game in 1997. KU won by the score of 20-17. In the closing minutes, Oklahoma didn't have enough men on the field. Normally, that's not a big deal, but if it's an offensive lineman, you have to have 7 on the line, and they only had 6. So then they got a flag, and they backed him up. On the one with the flag, they actually made the kick with their backup kicker. When it backed it up a little bit, he kicked it a little bit lower, and it was blocked.
Mm-hmm.
So then they walk away with a loss. Afterwards, they talk to the coaches and they go, we didn't realize he wasn't on the field at the time. The kid just wasn't where he needed to be. That's a pretty big coaching mistake when you're the special teams coach.
And when it's the game, you're trying to tie the game. So aren't you looking for all your ducks in a row? Hey, let's not get this wrong. Get everybody, where's Bob? Where's Mike? Where's, Sam? Hey, everybody get over here. The kid might have been the backup. I don't know exactly. Maybe he wasn't normally going to be out there, but someone was hurt, so it was his turn.
No, normally he was supposed to be out there. So again, it comes down to coaching.
Right.
Why do we bring that up? Nebraska had a horrible thing with coaches in the last being out-coached by so many people. They're supposed to be the smartest guy on the field. The coach gets out-coached. So it comes down to coaching. Is the coach better at Alabama or is the coach better at Tennessee? That's why they play to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to Clemson and Florida State at Florida State. This is an interesting one to me because isn't Florida State
Clemson's favored by 3.5.
Yeah, they're at home, but Florida State has had 2 losses back-to-back. Wake Forest came in, beat them at home. NC State beat them at North Carolina, both within 10 points. The North Carolina State was actually within 2.
I don't know which Florida State shows up. That Florida State should have beat NC State. The Wake Forest was a tough game. Wake Forest scores. They play really good football. To me, a toss-up game. I don't even think we talked about that one last week. But I'm still not a full believer in Clemson. I know that they're undefeated. Their quarterback's 14 touchdowns, only 2 picks, which is solid. But I can really see Florida State winning this game. I just don't know if they show up.
Yeah, Roger picked Clemson. When you look at the numbers, points allowed per game, their defense is stout on both sides. When you look at how many points they score per game, Clemson has them beat by about 8 points or so. But again, you're in Florida State at home.
Right.
I'm taking Clemson.
Same.
I think Florida State makes it a game, but I don't think they get out.
It won't be like
a win.
BYU Notre Dame last week we talked about, where I'm like, oh my gosh, how did Notre Dame win that? If Florida State wins this, I'll be like, I could see it. But again, I just don't know which one's going to show up. So I'm definitely taking Clemson, but I won't be surprised if Florida State actually shows up, plays tough, and gets themselves back in there.
Yeah, that was interesting. That being the BYU Notre Dame game, somebody in Vegas knew something that was going on with BYU because Notre Dame just ripped them.
And they were favored. And I remember we talked about how is Notre Dame favored in that game at home. Looked so bad their last few. And you're right. Somebody in Vegas knew something because that quarterback, I think he only had 4 incompletions.
Yeah.
The entire game.
He was on fire.
Yeah.
Roger has this awesome thing that he likes to say about Duke basketball. If Duke is an underdog at home, you always pick Duke.
Right.
Okay, so Florida State's an underdog at home. Is this a Duke is an underdog at home scenario and you pick FSU? I'm going to go with Clemson, though. Roger took Clemson. Yeah. It's fun to speculate and then watch it and see what happens. We're going to move on to the NFL. We're going to talk about the dog of the week first. And the dog of the week is the Monday night game against 2 teams that have struggled handily throughout the season. And that is my lowly Broncos with Russell Wilson, who is battered, dealing with multiple injuries, bruised ribs, has a shoulder lat injury.
And still probably going to play.
If you can learn anything from previous quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, just sit and rest and get better.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I get they need this game to get to 500. They need to win. And I'm not trying to throw stones at Russell Wilson. He's hurt, blah, blah, blah. But are you telling me this guy hasn't lit up the scoreboard yet? He isn't the reason. He is the reason they're not winning games right now. Their defense has played extremely well. They're not even scoring 2 touchdowns a game, for crying out loud. What's the backup going to give you? 2 field goals instead of 4?
I agree and disagree with you all at the same time. He's not the only reason. Melvin Gordon, former Charger, has fumbled so many times. He was the reason they lost to Seattle. 2 goal line fumbles. He gave the game away. Yep. He basically said, here, have it. I don't want it.
Who wants to score a touchdown in the NFL?
But conversely, the Chargers defense allows 27 points a game, and the Denver defense allows 16 points a game. Again, Daryl's mantra, defense wins games. Roger picked the Broncos.
Yeah, I see you say defense wins the games, but Chargers are still scoring 20-plus a game, and again, Denver's barely getting 2 touchdowns. So to me, first 1 to 20 wins, and I'll take the Chargers.
All right, James is taking the Chargers. I am taking the Broncos. Roger's taking the Broncos.
And I feel for all you NFL fans that like the Thursday night, Monday night games also because it's a full slate. Your Thursday night game is a snoozer, and then you're going to get the Monday night game and be like, oh, well, really? Okay.
Unless you're a fan.
Unless
you're a fan.
Right.
And this could be a fan of the game because you say snoozer, Mile High Stadium's still going to be packed.
I could see it. It is a division game. No one gave the Raiders much chance against Kansas City but me. And they played them tough in Kansas City. But the division matchups, Raiders have always played them tough, even in Kansas City. And Denver will hang tough. And again, that second half will be Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers are favored by 4.5. Overs are set at 45.5. You're not alone in thinking that they can do it. I just think the Broncos defense wins it for them.
When you said the overs, all the NFL games overs are around the 45-point mark or lower, except for Arizona, Seattle, Bills, Chiefs are the only ones that hit in the 50.
Okay. Moving on, let's take a look at Rodgers Falcons at home against the Niners. Roger in the past has said the Niners has one of the best teams in the NFL right now. They may not always play like it. They're favored at 5.5 against Rodgers Falcons. Overs and unders at 44.5.
And a side note, Roger, it would have been nice to see Atlanta get that chance against the Bucs last week. Horrible, which everyone knows by now. Horrible roughing the passer call. I'd love to see that momentum that Atlanta had and Mariota try to take them down and win that game. That would have been nice.
I'm not sure what the love affair the refs have with Tom Brady. I think every single one of them do. Thinking back to when Cam Newton was early in the league, he's just like, how come I didn't get that roughing the passer call? And the ref looked at him and said, because you're not Tom Brady.
Right. And yeah, Cam had that look that you just gave me like, dude, did you seriously just say that to my face?
Yeah, out loud.
Right. You realize that was your outside voice.
Yeah.
You just told me. Yeah. And that's been brought up on numerous shows. These running quarterbacks that have to get thrown down like that. Mahomes got tackled in the Monday night game the very next day, just like Brady did, and there was no call. I mean, almost the exact same tackle, except they threw Mahomes instead of held on to him as he rolled.
Well, yeah, he's not Tom Brady.
You're right. You're a mobile quarterback. You're good. No. Anyway, yes, Atlanta, the 49ers. Falcons can go to 500. The 49ers would fall to 3-3, which would be great as a Cowboys fan. To me, this is like last week. I really hope Atlanta wins like I wanted them to beat the Bucs. I just think the 49ers are playing too well. Jimmy G has only thrown one pick so far this season. Granted, he hasn't played the full season, but their defense still winning them games.
Roger had to cry a little bit when he sent me his text or his pick because he did pick the Niners against his Falcons. And I'm going to go with the Niners as well. I don't think there's anybody out there right now that's as good as the Niners.
Yeah. And Atlanta's given up 20-plus points a game, and the Niners don't even give up 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, as much as I hope Mariota and them feed off of that Bucs defense and the stuff they did right and move it on to this division game and get to 500. Pulling for you, Roger.
Roger has sent me a pick that he's taking the Packers. Our next game that we're looking at, Packers at home against the Jets. Jets are 3-2. Packers are 3-2. Packers are favored by 7.5. Over set at 45.5. Packers are all over the place.
This is my upset of the week. You guys can go ahead and go to your DraftKings and throw it in there. Jets upset. They get their guy back, Zach Wilson. They played extremely well last week, as you saw. We talk. Yeah, Green Bay is everywhere. I know Jets are giving up 23 points a game, but I think that was more of nothing against Flacco, but they didn't have the ball as much. Not a lot of ball control, defense on the field. They're scoring.
Are they tired from coming back from across the pond?
Oh, no. They're motivated. I mean, Green Bay had to come back from across the pond.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you're talking about Green Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guess. I don't know if they did the Minnesota thing or the Saints. Did they go early or did they go late? But I love the Jets in this thing. Young offensive team, man, they got some stars. They probably got the rookie of the year on the offense with their running back. I don't know his name right now, but he looks great. And I have no faith in the Packers as much as if you put give those receivers that the Jets have, as young as they are, you give them to Aaron Rodgers on Green Bay right now. Green Bay is the best team, not only in the NFC, but they're talking about them with Kansas City and the Bills. I think they're that good.
Yeah, maybe. I just like rooting against Aaron Rodgers this season, so I'm going to take the Jets just for that sole reason.
I love to see the Jets win by multiple scores at the Lambeau.
Moving on to our 3:25 game, very pivotal game in the AFC with the Bills in Kansas City taking on the Chiefs. Both of them are 4-1. The Chiefs lost to the Colts, and the Bills lost to Miami, which was a completely different team when they lost to them. Overs are set at 54. Bills favored by 2.5.
I don't think it goes like the playoff game as much as fans want it to be. I hope for a shootout. Like I said, this is one of the over and unders that was at 50-some points. Chiefs at home, they look good against the Raiders for the most part. This Bills defense, I think, has a little chip on the shoulder from the playoffs last year. So they go home and, I'm sure all the talk in the media was, you didn't even stop them. Forget changing the rule. Both teams need to have possession. I totally disagree with that. That's nothing different. The Bills, if I'm their coach or their fans, are like, dude, you let them drive right down the field to get a touchdown. You didn't even I think they had 1 3rd down the whole drive, and you let them score. You didn't even give Josh Allen a chance. You should be embarrassed. And I hope they were. And guess what they got this year? Von Miller on the other side.
Von Miller's huge.
Huge, very. He can chase Mahomes down. You have a Bills front seven that I think is improved from last year's defense. And overall this year, their defense is top-notch. So
Von Miller was with my Broncos, and I said you should trade him to get some value. It's sad to see him go. I love to see him continuing his career, but I'll bring that up again. It's a business. You trade players when you still have some worth to get other players for them, and that is what Von Miller has been doing with his last few teams. They trade him like, hey, you did great things for us, but we're going to trade you. But now his defense is helping the team he's on, and you're picking the Bills because of their defense. I'm picking KC because they're at home, and solely from what I saw from him and Travis Kelce, they got together and go, we're going to win. We're going to find a way to win. Our backs are against the wall last week. Somehow we got down by 3 scores. Came back.
Bills, 12 points a game. Kansas City giving up 20-plus points a game.
Yeah.
If they get down 17-0 to the Bills, I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm going to say they're not coming back. They're not going to mount that comeback because, again, I think the Bills take Kelce out of this game. There's no Tyreek Hill this time. So there's none of that big catch and run, 47 yards on a 2-yard pass. And I think the Bills, if that defensive coordinator is smart, you safety linebacker Kelce, and then let the other guys try to win one-on-one matchups. And I think favors Bills.
James takes the Bills. Rodgers takes the Bills. That home crowd in Kansas City is something else. KC wins by 2. Even though Vegas has the Bills favored by 2.5.
On the road.
On the road. We're gonna save the Cowboys and Eagles for last because just because.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Arizona-Seattle game. In Seattle. Wow. Seattle.
Right.
I'm saying wow to Seattle because Geno Smith. Wow.
So, early in the season, I said Seattle was going to be in tank mode after they lost to Denver, and then they beat Denver. I don't think Geno Smith got the memo that we're trying to tank. Geno's like, I'm trying to revive my career, make me a starter in this league. And he 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions on a Seattle team that Russell Wilson left because, they were offensively struggling and blah, 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 blah. They do have a major injury, a loss of Penny for the season. I do believe that hurts them. With Penny, I would have been taking Seattle 100 times out of 100. Right now, it being in Seattle, Arizona plays good, but Seattle's defense plays really well. Also, they get in too many shootouts for both these teams are in shootouts every week. I honestly don't know. I mean, if Penny was in the game, like I said, I would take Seattle easily. Right now,
Vegas has Arizona favored by 3 on the road in Seattle.
Right, which
and the way they're playing, the way Seattle's playing, I don't see them losing at home. Roger picked Arizona.
Yeah, I agree. When in doubt, I go with the home team, and I got to go with Seattle. Like you said, with that crowd, the noise, and Geno's, man, he is really balling. Not that Murray's not. I'm
with you, James. I'm taking Seattle at home too. Seattle's tough at home. Seattle's tough everywhere. They have a great coach. This guy's been around for so long, doing it his way.
Oh, yeah, definitely his way.
The reason I said that, Russell Wilson didn't like his way, so he's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson's in a new place. Seattle then went to a veteran who has made many different stops at many different teams. But like you say, he's trying to revive his career, and it looks amazing.
Yeah. Isn't Pete Carroll a defensive guy? And Russell Wilson leaves. Essentially, the offense is pretty much the same with Metcalf and the other little guy and Penny. 25 points a game. Seattle is scoring 25 points a game with a guy that was in the league as a career backup and now is starting, and his numbers have exceeded what anyone had thought of.
Okay, you say Pete Carroll's the defensive-minded guy. I see the opposite, that he is he's evenly matched on both sides because he also looks at what are the strengths of this guy, and he's done that since college and now back to the pros. He's looked at what Geno Smith can do, and he never tries to put him in a situation like, I don't think you can do this, but I want you to go out and show me what you got.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that can open the whole cupboard to him, and he takes off both sides. He is doing the defense-offensive thing very equal. Yes, and you have a guy, hey, Geno, I'm going to make you shine. Not only am I going to make you my starter, even though I traded for Drew Lock and I thought he was going to be, that was their guy. Come through preseason and getting the snaps. If you watch their preseason and the talk, Lock was their guy. And then Geno's like, no, look, young pup, why don't you just take some notes, hold this clipboard while I go shock the world. Yeah,
I watched Locke when he was at the Broncos, and bad. Good in college. If you want to be a decent backup, then follow what he's done. But I agree. Geno Smith has done great, and the coaching staff knows what they have in him, and they play to his strengths. Another coach that has done that is the current coach of the Cowboys, and I think he got shown the door when he butted heads with the Green Bay Packer quarterback at the time because he wanted his way. Mm-hmm. Let's do it this way. And I think he's butting heads again with his current coach. That's a side note. But moving to the Cowboys-Eagles game, the Eagles are favored by 6 at home. Overs are set at 42. And I segued into what does the coach do with their players, and McCarthy has done that with Rush. I'm not going to put you in a position, and it's not necessarily even McCarthy. It's Kellen Moore, who's running the offense, that knows what he's doing, calling the plays, not putting Rush in spots that he doesn't think he's going to do good at. He finds spots that he knows he's going to be good in, and you're backed up by Pollard and Ezekiel. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not to get too long on the segment, but yeah, I can go in on the whole McCarthy thing and, they should have had Sean Payton and blah, 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 which I totally disagree. I think McCarthy is the right guy, and I don't want to go into that whole side story. But yes, McCarthy was the guy that when he came to this team, there's an 83-man roster. Right now, he only has 12 guys that were on the team when he signed up. And that flips it. So as a Cowboys fan, I've seen this team with Romo go down or running back go down, Marion Barber, whoever it was when Garrett was coaching, and the team just, oh, man, we lost Billy. We're going to lose now. And they tank for the next 3 or 4 games. You're like, what? So when Dak got hurt, I was on that wagon. I'm like, great. This is my normal Cowboy team. They're all going to fold in. No one's going to rally. And boy, was I wrong. Not only are they rallying around Cooper Rush, they're rallying around on defense to have that chip on their shoulder. I don't know if they can quite call themselves Doomsday, which I heard that's what they're nicknaming themselves. A little too early for that. Let's get past the Eagles. But yes, McCarthy has changed the locker room culture along with the coaching staff, whoever he's brought in. And that's been the difference in the Cowboys with Cooper Rush at quarterback is they still believe they can win no matter who's on the field.
So you're going with your Cowboys.
No, I'm not.
You're not?
No.
See, I said Ezekiel Smith. It's Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know what the heck I was thinking about, but James is bleeding out the ears right now listening to himself by picking the Eagles against his Cowboys.
Mainly it's Cooper. If Dak was in there, and I firmly agree, leave him out. Wait till he can really grip that ball and throw it like you need to in the NFL. Coop's been amazing, but Philly plays really good D. Now, the Cowboys, they play amazingly good D. I just think it's going to come down where Dallas is going to need to score 24 points, and I don't know if Coop puts up 24 against this Eagle defense.
Eagles defense allows 17.6 points per game. Defense wins games. Cowboys defense allows 14.4, but Parsons is questionable. He's banged up.
Well, on the flip side, Philly scores 27, and Dallas isn't even scoring 20. So, yeah, I think that's to be the hardest thing. First one at 24, and I think it's the Eagles at 24-20, 24-19 game.
If the Cowboys defense scores like they did last week,
right? Oh,
and that's why I'm picking the Cowboys. I think they have a defensive score.
Oh, that'd be huge.
It would be huge. It would be very huge. Speaking of huge, we are going to move on to the wonderful world of smacking the leather cover off of a little ball known as Major League Baseball. Phillies, Braves, series tied at 1 apiece. Padres, Dodgers, series tied at 1 apiece.
So very interesting. The wild card was not what we thought. Me and Roger did our picks, and I'm sure both of us surprised that Seattle not only beat Toronto, but beat them 2 straight. On the flip side, you have Philly taking 2 out of 3 against the Mets. The Mets pulled out 1. We didn't have that. So a little surprise there. Yesterday, Braves scored all 3 runs in the 6th inning. Their pitcher bullpen shutout ball. Padres came back against the Dodgers, 6 scoreless innings against a lineup that is just amazing. So hats off to the Padres to steal one at LA and going home tied 1-1 with a lot of momentum. So I'm excited for that matchup. I really hope Padres push it to 7. I'm sure if Roger was here, he'd agree that it's still the Dodgers to lose.
It is the Dodgers to lose, but
right.
The Padres are playing hot right now.
Very, very hot. That wild card, I think, helped them get some momentum and playoff experience, I guess you could say. And now they're right. They're right in there, and I love it.
We've got a couple of games today. The first one is the Mariners versus the Astros. That's a 2:37 matchup Central Time. The Astros are favored by a little over 1.5 runs. Astros lead the series 1-0. Overs are set at 7. Just an interesting side note about the Astros. They lost one of their pitchers, Phil Maton. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. He broke his finger after the season finale. He's out for the postseason. He faced his brother, who plays for the Phillies. His brother got a hit. He was so frustrated that he went into the locker room and then punched his locker, broke a finger, had to have surgery. He's out.
And you know what I say right there? That's selfish. I get you had your emotions, but you're a grown man that knows this is playoff time. You're in the playoffs, obviously. I don't do anything to hurt. What do they tell you? You don't do your pitching hand. Quarterbacks, you don't use your throwing hand. Use the offhand.
Amari Stoudemire broke some glass. He punched the fire extinguisher thing after a loss, and then he was out. So, right. It is selfish.
That's selfish.
And you have to control your emotions. Yeah. And some of the best coaches around preach that to their players. I also brought that up because they're not the only team without potentially a pitcher who could make a difference. Aroldis Chapman is out for the Yankees because he just did a bonehead thing and decided not to show up as the pitcher for batting practice one day. Yeah. Well,
you know what he said? If I'm going to be on the roster, I'll come. And they said, well, we don't know yet. And he said, fine, I'm not coming.
Right. And which is over a tattoo that he got an infection in. Dude, I'm not saying don't get a tattoo when you're a millionaire, but how about you do it during the off season? Because wherever you had it, you're a pitcher, your skin has to heal. So then it's going to be discomfort. You might play a little bit differently, and then you end up getting an infection. So what sort of dirty conditions were you in?
If you had millions, are you not going to somewhere that one is a clean place? Because it's not easy to get an infection from a tattoo unless you just don't take care of it. And when you got the millions and the, excuse me, I would hope the clean living that you would do. Yeah, kind of surprised you get an infection from that.
Right. After talking for 46 minutes about sports, it's amazing that you have these boneheaded plays by millionaires who have supposedly trained their entire life to get to these spots and then break a finger.
Right.
So the Astros at home against the Mariners, I don't see the Mariners getting by them.
I don't either. They played them tough. That game one, there was a walk-off homer. I mean, they were pitching well, playing great. Tonight, their matchup, it looks really good for them. This Castillo pitched great in the wild card. The Valdez for Houston has a 2-point-some ERA, really low ERA, 17 wins. So, and we already know Houston probably has the best pitching staff, not only American League, but probably all of them, all the teams left in it.
But also the Mariners are playing really tough. They're hitting on all cylinders. Granted, yeah, they lost their first one.
They're scoring runs.
Yeah.
So that'll force anybody to have to step up their game. And I think the over-under 7 is high just when I think of these two pitchers. But if Seattle can continue to hit the ball like they did in the first round in Toronto, it's there.
And it's the postseason, though. Vegas is looking at how well all these teams are. Friday's game, the Dodgers-Padres overs are set at 7.5. The Friday game, Braves and Phillies, the overs are set at 7. Today's Guardians-Yankees game, the overs are set at 6.5. Mariners-Astros set at 7. The reason Vegas does that is these guys can play great baseball.
Yep.
And the Yankees are playing great baseball. Moving on to the Yankees-Guardians. Yankees at home still. They lead the series 1-0. And that's the 6:37 game tonight.
Yep. And you got Bieber for the Guardians, Cy Young winner. And you have Nestor Cortez, by the way, out of nowhere, had a dream season. And my only fingers could cross and say, please keep it going. Postseason's a whole different animal than the regular season, but he has pitched amazing this year. The Yankees did not, when coming into the season, see him as a top 3 starter, let alone a starter in the playoffs. He was supposed to get innings for them where they got guys healthy, and now he finds them starting game 2.
Prior to 61, Aaron Judge was very effective at getting to base. After 62, he is not effective at getting at base. He's focused. He's a young kid, and he's focused on that home run record.
Right.
And that's all he wants to hit right now. And I cringe whenever I see him come up to bat and just try to knock it into the next state. And I just want him to get on base.
So
he was great at that.
I think where he messed up, or actually Boone messed up, is putting him leadoff. Aaron Judge is a great hitter. Obviously, you can look at the numbers. They don't lie. But he is not a leadoff hitter. To me, Cabrera, the young rookie, should be the leadoff. I don't care if playoffs or not. The kid is unfazed, like Derek Jeter, put him in the leadoff spot, let Judge get in his normal number 2, number 3 spot, and be more relaxed. I think he goes up there, lets some pitches go that he probably should swing at, swings at pitches he probably shouldn't swing at, obviously. I think once Boone maneuvered that one leadoff spot to get him that extra at bat, which is crap, so he can get the home run, it totally threw off all his thing. Because, in baseball, that leadoff guy, I need you to look at pitches And you see what he's
You
got
need him
today.
on base. The leadoff guy is there to get on base.
And need you to
get
set
on
the
base,
table. Right.
To get on base. So you set up what was going on in my brain the entire time with the Cleveland Guardians, formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, and their manager, their skipper, their head coach, whatever you want to call him, is amazing.
Smart.
He's been around for a long time, and he has kept Cleveland relevant in the baseball world.
And by the way, who beat the Yankees on that magical 3-down, 3 games to none? Who was their manager? Exactly. So yes, he knows
so
this
who was
Yankee.
that?
Franco.
Yeah.
Or Franco, right? Falcone. It starts with an F.
What I was getting at is the Cleveland Guardians manager has a lot of experience in the postseason. Does Boone have the same experience? He's a little bit younger manager. He's doing a lot with some players that don't necessarily have the postseason experience. And it is close. Yeah, the Yankees are favored by 1.5 runs. Their overs and unders are set at 6.5 because they are in New York. It's a little bit smaller park than some places. They say it's a hitter's park.
Yep, especially right field.
But you play, in my mind, I think the Guardians take one from the Yankees at home.
So they'd be tonight.
I think the Guardians even it up. I think they make a series out of it.
And as a Yankees fan, watching them in the playoffs the last few years, their biggest Achilles heel is scoring in the postseason. So if Bieber holds them to 1 or no runs and Cortez has 1 bad inning and gives up 2 or even 1, they can lose 1-0, 2-1. And unfortunately, Cortez would probably have a great outing like he usually does with 0 run support. And we've seen that a lot in baseball. You get these pitchers that pitch gems upon gems and no run support. So I hope the Yankees are hitting still and they're firing on the cylinders. Right now, their lineup is a bunch of guys that have not finished the season on a hot streak. Rizzo, Stanton, Donaldson. Just Aaron Hicks. I hope he doesn't even see the lineup this series at all, unless, hopefully no injury. But you just have these guys that just are not hitting.
The Guardians are really young. They've followed suit with what I feel the Atlanta Braves did. They built around some really good core veterans on a team and brought in some youth that are really, really good. And if they don't get past the Yankees this year, you better pay attention to the Guardians next year if they keep this same lineup. We'll see what happens.
I agree, and that's what I thought about Toronto coming into this season. That young lineup, hungry, talented thing, needed a little bit of pitching help. And obviously it was a pitching that hurt them, giving up all those runs to Seattle. Yeah, Cleveland, if they can get, they have great starting pitching. Now they just put it all together and, again, we have to see what happens this series. I've just starting 1-0.
I honestly think that it even shocked some of the young Guardians players to have gotten this far. But then they look to their skipper and go, oh, yeah, I did exactly what you told me to do, and we're winning now. So, boy, I better start listening to what you say all the time. And he has them playing the best baseball at the best time during the playoffs. And I bring this up because they were in the wild card. The Cubs were in a wild card, and they came back from a 3-0-3 deficit to win the World Series. I'm not saying the Guardians are going to do that, but there's always a chance that they could.
Mm-hmm. They scored 698 runs this year. They finished the season 7-3, so they were obviously one of those teams on a hot streak. Went through the wild card, played extremely well. And, now they get the Yankees, who they would love to dethrone and push their way to that ALCS.
Yeah, Terry Francona.
Right. I knew it started with an F.
They call him Tito as a nod to his dad. Great manager, just lots and lots of years of experience in the majors. And we'll see what happens. Can he get it done? I don't know. Yankees are tough.
Yeah, and Cleveland, for a young team, 500 at home. 46 wins on the road, 46 wins at home. So pretty impressive to like you said, being just as good on the road. So really, it doesn't really matter to them where they're at. They're going to play hard and win games.
So I wish Roger was here. He's the Braves aficionado. The Braves are going on the road to play the Phillies. Somehow the Phillies snuck in a win in Atlanta. Braves are favored on the road by a score. 2 scores, actually, 1.5. Phillies, do they get it done at home? Do they not get it done at home?
Last night I watched some of the game. My schedule, being second shift, it hurts trying to get to these games, while you're working, watching them. I did see, I think I watched third, fourth, fifth, second, third, fourth, something like that. Philly had numerous chances yesterday and didn't come through. So do they build on that when they go home and score runs? I agree with Roger. The pitching for Atlanta is more than solid. I see Phillies maybe winning one more game, but I do see the Braves finishing it off mainly because their starters go deeper than Philly starters.
Yeah, somehow Phillies snuck in that first win, the very first game of the series. I think that woke up a sleeping dog. I think the Braves went, whoa, wait a minute.
Right.
Phillies don't have professional punk of the year, Bryce Harper. He's still out. But amazing confidence.
No, he's there.
Yeah, okay, in my mind, he's still out.
Right.
Dang it. He has amazing confidence that bleeds over to the rest of his players. If he's doing it right, sometimes if he's not doing it right, then his confidence really hurts because he's one of those players where he's like, I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
He is coachable. Phillies at home, I don't know.
Yeah, I
Braves
agree.
are just too tough.
Yeah. I said Bryce Harper came up runner on 2-0 count and ends up not getting it done.
Moving on to the Dodgers and Padres, again, another Friday game. That's the 7:37 game. They've got the late start. They're at San Diego. Dodgers are favored by 1.5. Overs or unders set at 5 or 7.5.
They have Blake Snell going for the Padres. As a Tampa Bay guy or Yankees fan, seeing him at Tampa Bay, I don't like him, but I like him as a pitcher. He is really, really good. Going against a Gosselin for the Dodgers, man, Blake Snell can really mow him down.
I want to take the Padres just because they're going against one of the highest salary teams in baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers. So I gotta root for the underdog in this one. I want Machado and the rest of the guys out there to get it done against the Dodgers. I don't think it happens though.
I agree, but yeah, anytime I can watch the Dodgers on the side of a loss makes me smile.
Yeah, we've got a lot of sports this week again. Taking a look at UNL volleyball, we're going to play Friday the 14th at Penn State. Penn State, first time they opened the season not ranked since I think 2016 or 2017. Yep. They're now ranked 20th. UNL is ranked 6th. Russ Rose retired from Penn State after 43 seasons. He won 1,330 matches. And the last 4 years he was there, Katie Schumer Cawley was the assistant coach. So she picked up a lot from him. She's now the head coach. They did lose Caitlin Horde to Nebraska. She was a 3-time All-American with Penn State. We are on the road. We'll see what happens. UNL then stays on the road. October the 16th, we go to Northwestern. 3 days later, still on the road, UNL goes to Purdue. So we have a tough schedule in the next week for our volleyball team. Coach Cook is doing a great job. I'm sure he does a great job as well on the road. So fun matches to watch.
Right.
Also upcoming this week, we have the NBA preseason wrapping up, and the regular season starts October the 18th. James really didn't want me to go too in-depth in this, but I just want to bring up a little drama that's happened during the preseason. Draymond Green, if you've lived under a rock the last week, punched his teammate during a scrimmage. Jordan Poole came out and apologized, felt horrible.
Did you see the video?
Yeah, I did.
Right.
But also, the Lakers now have some more drama. Last night's game, Dennis Schroeder is back with the team, and he wanted to have a huddle with the team. Russell Westbrook refused.
Is anyone surprised?
No. Warriors came out actually stronger from this because they all got together and go, yeah, we understand tensions are high. You talk smack. Draymond Green never backs down. That's how he got ejected, and the Lakers were able to come back and win a title. But the Lakers look so very troubled.
Right.
They don't have the coach.
And like you said, like we had talked about, is Green find himself now almost out of Golden State by the end of the year?
He's got 1 year left. Kuminga comes in, so it also hinges on, does Kuminga do what Draymond Green does?
Right.
Nobody gets into anybody's head like Draymond Green. Draymond Green frustrated the Celtics like nobody's business.
After game one, right. Then he started doing his thing. But on this incident, I look at it and watching the video, it wasn't even on the court. It was on the sideline as they're John talking crap, whatever you want to talk about.
It was under the basket.
Right. But they were not playing.
So what did Jordan Poole say?
Right.
I'm not picking any side.
No. But they were obviously separated at the time, and Green initiates everything, blah, 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 blah. Is it like you said earlier in the NFL, do you trade him mid-season before the trade deadline to get something for the guy that you know you only have a year left with him, and oh, by the way, you're going to let him go anyway? Or you guys have the team meeting, him and Poole do make up. He said he's going to give Poole the time. If he, whenever he's ready. He says he does apologize, blah, blah, blah. It's what you got to say.
They fined him. I don't know how much it was, but they said this is the...
Right. No suspension, just a fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would trade him. I'd be looking for suitors behind the thing and get something for him because I would not be re-signing Draymond.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens. It all hinges, personally, for me, in my opinion, what Kuminga can bring to the game. And Draymond Green is much like Marcus Smart. There's so many things that don't show up in the stat line for the reason why you keep him on the team.
100%.
So we'll see what Kuminga does. NBA season starts October the 18th. The Philadelphia 76ers versus Boston at 6:30. Lakers versus Warriors at 9. And that's why I wanted to talk about all the drama, because those are the two teams that have the drama right now.
And the Lakers drama, there's no answer for it. They're a dysfunctional, non-chemistry having team with a lot of talent. You look on paper and write their names down and you're like, oh, if I'm on NBA 2K, I'm running this. But when you have to pass the ball to each other, set screens for each other, and be there for each other, man, the Lakers 6-7 seed, if, some other team doesn't come out of the woodwork just because, the West is top stacked heavy on top, they're not going anywhere.
Every NBA team is a dysfunctional family, but it depends on how their father figure or mother figure. The reason I say that is because Becky Hammond was a coach, and I think we have another female coach in there. Anyway, side note, I could go on a tangent forever, but it all depends on how your coach handles the situation, and the Warriors handle it great.
Steve Kerr.
The Lakers do not handle it great.
No. Well, that's because you have 4 coaches on that team that don't know that there's 4 coaches on the team.
They do. They just haven't given them that title where, back when they actually had player coaches in the 60s, I think was one of the last times they did it. They actually were probably a little more mature than, say, a LeBron James.
Right.
So a lot of great stuff to watch. A lot of great stuff to watch. College football, NFL, Major League Baseball, and talked a little volleyball and some NBA. What a time.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say thanks for listening, and I'm going to ask James if he has any parting thoughts.
I do. So I recently read an article, and people that know me, and I have said this to numerous people, about the Nebraska curse. I named it the Nebraska curse because Frost was gone. Teams that had beat Nebraska not winning. Northwestern hasn't won since they beat us. Oklahoma obviously has not won since they beat us. Georgia Southern, who this was an offensive juggernaut, by the way, now we're in the bottom third of offense, has won 1 game since they played Nebraska. Somebody wrote it out and called it the Scott Frost curse, which I'm calling it the Nebraska curse. On the flip side, we beat North Dakota. They are 4-1 since they played us. Granted, Indiana, we beat them. They lost a tough game against Michigan. They battled them all the way on the road, so we'll see where that goes. But I named it the Nebraska Curse. I wish I could have trademarked it sooner because I nailed it. But anyway, we'll move on and let's go Big Red.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to Blue Collar Sports Talk. Daryl along here with James. We want everybody to have a great day and go watch some sports.
See ya.